Looking forward to having a fruitful discussion here with you all.
Great. Thank you, Shamir, for that introduction, and welcome to VCTV. Again, we have lots of things to hear from you. Excellent. So we are all set now. We are all warmed up. Now, we would like to hear on some questions that I have for you guys. I'd like to start with Karuna first. Karuna, because you are in Hong Kong, very close to me where I am. I'm in Singapore. So just want to know, what are the current investments? Like after the pandemic, obviously everything has slowed down in terms of investments, in terms of design, development, everything has sort of slowed down. That's what we hear. But things have started to pick up because we have accepted this as to be the normal. So just want to know, what are your recent investments in the last 3-4 months? Thank you.
Yes, well, arguably, yes and no. I think what a good crisis always brings along is a very clear-cut, winners and losers type of situation. So, again, arguably, and I'll come a little bit with a larger, background, and then maybe focus in a bit more on blockchain. So, right now there are certain industry that are benefiting, arguably, from this, unfortunate health, crisis. But again, a blessing in disguise in the context where it really changes market dynamics. And really drives in a very drastic way behavior change. So right now we have, previously, that is in the public domain, closed funds on a fintech company. We closed funds on a fashion tech company, and also a company that is active in the supply chain, like Industry 4.0 area. So these are areas that were not blockchain specific. Right now, we're really very much looking into sectors and industry that are thriving, which is education technology, health tech, and with a focus on food tech, and gaming. And I'm going to talk about gaming because that is a wonderful example in terms of where we do look into blockchain technology investment. So gaming is probably one of these sectors, as I mentioned, where there's a drastic shift and potentially a blessing in disguise behind this crisis, where now every day is a Sunday, right? Where everybody's behind their screens all the time. And what is interesting, so once again, is when you look at, obviously there's more traffic, but if you start this more traffic is something that can also start being monetized, which then will help this industry that is right now a 100 to 200 billion US dollar industry to become a several trillion dollar industry in the context of leveraging blockchain technology, and more particularly NFTs, or non-fungible tokens. This is a company that is really looking into leveraging three different elements that are seamlessly integrated. So obviously they have their own utility token for actors to really become active. But what is most important when I talk about really behavior change and dynamic change within an industry is gamers are now able to build virtual assets, to store them, thanks to, the blockchain technology, to create non-fungible tokens that become virtual assets that become then tradable on the second pillar of their business, which is a marketplace, and which seamlessly integrates with the third pillar, which is basically a studio where you can start building games without even knowing how to code. So what that really does is it gives the power back into the players, right? So really monetization of user-generated content thanks to this technology. And that's something we're very bullish on and very, very interested in. And again, some of these, you may see that in the news, of these tokens are traded on exchange currencies, and even like 2 or 3 hours after the token sale is finished, and they already, more than the triple or, times 6 the value of that token. So that's just one example. I'll stop here because I think we have more than one panelist, but that's a very concrete example where we can really see, and we're really bullish on blockchain enabling these big shifts in the industry.
Kara, thank you. We can stretch a little bit because very interesting topic you touched on. In terms of gaming, you mentioned that you obviously, because you saw there was a potential as a non-fungible token, and it's based on the blockchain technology. Is it your first investment into blockchain technology and a token company during the pandemic? If yes, what made you to take this big risk? I would say not a risk, the sense, because people, like, I hear from investors that they're very much like cautious now where to invest. So crypto, if you generally see the perception about crypto, people are like, oh, it's volatile and everything else. So what were you thinking, or what was that little, sort of, just to say, that moment that you thought, no, this is where I'm going to put my money?
Yeah, and I think very good one clarification maybe upfront. So on Angel Hub, right? You do invest with fiat money. So this is actually an equity round that is alongside this company issuing utility tokens and trading that separately. But just to again take that little part of the question, which was, are you afraid of the volatility, etc.? No. So again, what we're actually doing is our fund it's not a token fund. So that's very traditional dollars that we invest in exchange for equity, and same thing for our investors, right? Now, again, in terms of how we approach on Angel Hub is, so obviously Angel Hub has several partners around the world, and one of the biggest one is W Hub, our sister company, right? That does all these other powerful connections. So when we look into companies, very often it's not that we kind of like see them for the first time. So we see their evolution. We can see also, the track record of the teams, and we do have then basically, that privileged access to companies at the moment when they are looking forward to fundraise. So the thing is that they were at a stage in terms of development where they were ready to go for fundraising, and at the same time it was in that context of COVID where it really helped actually drive consumer traction significantly up. And again, what I said is it's interesting to see how a crisis actually can really help accelerate behavior change that typically would take a lot of marketing dollars, or that would take a lot of change. And that is something that, again, now everybody now being behind their computers is something that is really definitely has significantly increased. So it is just kind of like the timing right now is more type of a coincidence. And again, with that, for us, actually, it was an additional plus. But it's not something where we were proactively now looking out for, seeking this company. So that was already established.
Great, awesome. It's good to hear, the rationale behind this. Thank you, Karna. Beautifully explained. Thank you. Next, I would like to go for Gavin. Hi, Gavin. So yeah, please, you're on mute. Please help explain us your recent investments.
Perfect.
What's the reason behind making these investments, and if you've made some investments in the last 3-4 months? Thank you.
Sure. So our focus, and again, it's interesting to hear what Karina said about it was fortuitous, but also an added reason to make the investment. We've actually closed recently on 3 medical companies on using blockchain in the medical or well-being space. Companies we were talking to and were looking at investing, but with the pandemic, we could see it increased the potential of those companies tremendously, because they provide. One case in particular, D-Clinic, that we've invested in, they provide a framework where people can take responsibility for their own well-being and their own health, and that's something that's so important, obviously, in the current environment and with COVID. So similar situation. We had a number of companies we were talking to that just everything came together, and then when the pandemic hit, it just became a very easy decision to make the investments in those companies. So that's where certainly recently a lot of our focus has ended up being, and where we've ended up closing a number of deals and now looking to help those companies go to the next level. It's in a broad range of areas. There's another one, Clintex. What they do is medical. They try and optimize the medical research phase. So when you're doing drug trials, when the various stages of drug trials is still a very manual process, what they're looking to do is use a blockchain to streamline that process and make it a much more efficient endeavor for large laboratories to work together to share information without losing their proprietary right to that information. So that's kind of the area we're looking in and how we're looking to focus our efforts at the moment. So
great, excellent. Healthcare, of course, after gaming, I would say healthcare industry is the one you should be watching out for. Thank you, Gavin, for sharing those insights. And D-Clinic, I know them very well.
Okay.
Thank you. It's a great team.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you, Gavin. Next, we have Sahil from Sahil Verma. Hi, Sahil. Same question to you. What are the recent investments that you've made in last 2-3 months? And what were the reasons behind that? Thank you.
Sunny, as I mentioned earlier, we have recently got incorporated. So we have as such not made any direct investments. We have made only one investment, and that was in Hodel Coins for the time being, since we were waiting for our setup to be done, all the governance and compliance measures to come into picture. Hodel we went because of obvious reasons, it being a community experiment and stuff, and we have reaped quite good profits out of it. Besides that, we have already shortlisted various projects. I cannot name them because we have just made offers to them. Hopefully they should get executed in next fortnight or so. So one is a crypto trading company, crypto gaming company. So it's a crypto gaming company based out of Singapore itself, recently incorporated. Initially, it had raised, I think, around $350,000. And now we are coming in as a follow-on investors. And the concept is that it would be organizing national level leagues, and winners of those national level leagues would be going to the final round, finals, and those finals would be held in Singapore. And with 3 different tiers: $10 ticket, $25 ticket, $100 ticket, and whosoever wins, there are prizes like Lamborghini and Harley Davidson on the offer. So that is one venture which we have shortlisted. Founders of those venture have already established experience of cryptocurrency as well as gaming and banking. Yes, some of their ventures failed as well, I'll be honest, but they have been serial entrepreneurs. So that is one project which we have shortlisted because of the rise of gaming as well as rise of cryptocurrency, and it combines both those aspects. Besides that, we are in talks with an educational group in the US, which is going to establish schools, K-12 schools, a complete chain for international students as well as US students. So we are trying to come up with a structure wherein we would be able to offer parents to invest with us, and in order to create an endowment fund or a child care education fund for their children. This is kind of we thought to be our corporate social responsibility investment or impact investment. So these are the 2 which we have shortlisted currently, and we have made offers.
Oh, wow. The second project that you mentioned, it's quite interesting. I would like to know more about it probably, later.
Definitely.
Endowment fund for child, education fund. That's something, I would say I've heard about it like in UK when I was there, but still it's not that popular. But yeah, excellent. Thank you for that information, Shahid. Thank you and welcome. So Shamir, I know you worked with governments, you worked on the blockchain technology. So please tell us your recent work that you've done in the space.
So ever since, are you looking at pre-COVID, post-COVID, during the COVID? So during the COVID, what's happened is that it did kind of throw light on a couple of interesting opportunities, both at a federal level as well as at various organization levels. We've seen a lot of interest, especially in the health tech and the med tech domain. So we've seen quite a few of our entrepreneurial or community of entrepreneurs that we work with launch new initiatives, especially around telemedicine, disease management. We ourselves as Accubits have developed a pandemic management platform called Rebuild the Chain, which is actually going live now in a couple of countries. So we've seen governments kind of focus their budget and allocation of funds mainly to address what is the current demand, but not only that, but look at the future occurrences of pandemics. So that's been quite interesting. The other area where we're seeing investments happening these days in the ed tech space, especially now with students and schools going digital, there's a massive investment that's happening, especially in the virtual classroom space, and some recent innovations, like even in terms of mixed reality, digitizing all of the learning content. That's been one area that we've also been focusing on. Another recent investment as Acubits that we've done is into a company which is basically looking into weather, AI, and blockchain. So they are all about computational sustainability and addressing the opportunities that are created by extreme weather conditions. So that's one area which, as you know, very well aligns with our vision statement.
Absolutely. Sustainability, impact investing, crisis management, as you said, the pandemic management, these are something that we should be looking at, obviously, as an investor or a startup to solve the current problem. Thank you so much, Shamir. We're going to take more on that after this. Next question I have for the investors. Karen, I'd like to know, so pre-COVID and during COVID and post-COVID, maybe, can you just tell us what will change in terms of institutional and private equity investment or angel investments? So what do you think has changed and will change?
Yes, it's interesting that you talk about post-COVID. I'm not really sure if we're already there. Hopefully soon. Clearly talk about pre-COVID and COVID. Look, I just want to re-stress again a little bit what I had said before, where again the silver lining or the blessing in disguise of such a crisis is really arguably it makes it, with regards to some aspects, the job of a VC over an investor more easy, because again at the end of the day, particularly, and if I step back on Angel Hub, 80% of our deal flow is pre-AA. And then we have about 20%, which is more tail investing, Series C, et cetera. So we invested in one of our fintech unicorns here, and we invested in a fast fashion company that did a Series C rouse with 56 million. But again, coming back at that stage, pre-AA, really the agility of the team, right, and the possibility to react to any major shifts and changes is something that you always want to be able to assess. And again, nothing better than a good crisis to understand how agile, the teams are really in terms of leveraging top line opportunities. Again, I'm just always thinking back on my career with 15 years with Procter & Gamble, when we had new products launched and really tried to create new needs or shift consumer behavior. It costs a lot of money, it costs a lot of time, and a crisis is here. And right now we're looking at a very interesting prop tech company that is leveraging the fact, and prop tech with like really offline type of business model, saw the opportunity on bringing their model online and arguably could expand now way faster, regionally, even globally, because they really understood the shift in consumer behavior and replied to it. Same thing on the bottom line, right? So again, the agility of companies to understand, how much they can cut down their burn rate to really, make sure that they have enough runway left. So I think what on that side, arguably, it really helps you as an investor even to see this in action from the team. And I really want to say, again, what really differentiates us is when we do due diligence, it is very often a due diligence that started, months or a year back, because we see these companies, thanks to the sister company, really from ideation stage all the way up to unicorn status and exit. So having access really changes. So what does change is, again, on the platform itself, when we bring on board other investors, is it is obvious uncertainty is the worst thing that can happen in financial markets, right? So again, obviously that uncertainty and bringing other investors on board and onboarding them on your understanding of the specific industry, of the specific business model, of the capabilities of the team, is in such circumstances way more difficult. And then once again, it's great if you don't start that just last week ago, but you have established relationships and you have built that trust, and you also have now the possibility to have these calls over Zoom because you have met these people offline beforehand, right? So I would not, it would be obviously not looking the reality in directly straight into the eyes to say that it has become easier. No, but I think. What I would argue is still, funds are out there. Funds need to be invested. I think investors do know it's a buyer's market right now. So any companies that was looking for bridge rounds that were not, now leveraging the opportunity to raise really growth money, obviously is in a weak position.
Excellent. Very good points there, Karana. Probably I have a question on the fashion industry pre-series later. I can just get more details. We just have a limited time. Thank you for enlightening us on the investments and why. Thank you so much. Kevin, I would like to ask the same question. I mean, what has changed? Since before 2020, during this time, and what do you foresee? I know, it's difficult to predict future these days, but still, in your opinion,
No, absolutely. To best answer that, I'd probably take my investment manager hat off and put on the hat of one of our companies that we work with that are looking to raise funds, because I think that's where the major impact has been. Similar to what Karina said, we're dealing with companies now where they've had funds, they thought they had deals signed up and then they've been pulled because investment companies are just running shy. So I think from an investor, a company looking to get investment at this stage, I think they need to put that effort in, work with companies like Karina's sister company, work with us to really get themselves investor ready, because by the time they come to speak to the Series A guys, or even to a public token sale, they need to be in a position where they've got the budget to present themselves properly and they're ready to move forward. I think investors on the whole are being much more selective about which companies get the investment now, as you said, because it's a buyer's market. So I think the biggest impact, both now and short term moving forward, is probably on the token companies looking to raise. From an investment manager point of view, it's almost the other way around. We're now trying to help too many people, and for us, it's a workload issue rather than a problem doing business. I think that's probably fair to say.
Great, awesome. It's a bias market. Please note. Thank you, Kevin, for those insights, and Karana. Sahil, so yeah, please enlighten us the changes over the time.
I have seen various other changes as well. A lot of investors who are willing to put their checks upfront, they are planning to go with staggered payment or payment in tranches based upon various KPIs. And I've also noticed a trend wherein investors want to have much more enhanced information rights than what they were getting earlier. For example, in safe notes or in KISS notes or other type of convertible instruments, investors were receiving, let's say, quarterly report or annual reports. But these days, they even want monthly reports, and that to be the complete MIS and all that technical financial jargon, whatever they call it. So that is one change which I have seen. Then investors are not looking for immediate exits. Now they are thinking that, for instance, if they have put money and they are receiving an exit right now, they know that if a startup is surviving this particular stage, that startup will yield them much more returns than exiting that startup right away. So those are the changes which I have observed from investor perspective. From startup perspective or from MSME perspective, I've seen that everyone is, of course, as Karen rightly pointed out, trying to look for their burn rate. They are trying to reduce their burn rate and getting rid of the headcount. We have seen, companies which became unicorns overnight, especially, a couple of South Asian startups, and they are in deep mess currently.
Oh, okay. Wow. Good to know about those insights, Sahil. Thank you so much for sharing. Shamir, your views.
I think what this COVID-19 pandemic has done is to kind of change the plates a little bit. Like Karen mentioned, it is a buyer's market. For investors, I believe, to a certain extent, the risk appetites have also changed. Like Sal mentioned, they're not looking for short-term gains. It's more long-term these days. They're mainly focused on the foundation of the business. How strong is the business as a business model? So they're more concerned about the top line and especially the expenditure. So like Sal mentioned, I think I know which startups he's talking about. Companies that have really had massive valuations turn to zero revenues overnight, and those are foundations which are now being looked into. So you can have a rosy future, but what's today is really important for the investors. So is it a sustainable business? Is it something that is cash generating and it's profitable? Are they able to overcome such issues or kind of events like the pandemic? Those are questions that are being looked into today.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Shamir. And I think I agree with you, Sahil. I know which companies I could guess, take a guess, South Asian. Thank you so much. So guys, now we have Carl Evans from US. My apologies because he had to wake up really early, like 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m. his time, but he's been a sport. So this session, which is the second part, we have a presentation from Buoyancy. So he is the legal head representing Buoyancy, and he is going to present how the success story and a roadmap of Buoyancy so far. I knew the team from last year when I was in Dubai. I've met them at several conferences. Great team. They've done great progress so far. So here we have the head of legal to share his, the journey so far. So hi, Carl. Welcome to VCTV. Hi, how are you? You are on mute.
Zoom got me. I'm on mute. Good morning, everybody. Guys, look, great panel. Some really interesting points there. I was listening when I first joined, and I was listening when I first woke up. You all raised some really, really good points. You all touched on some very, very valid insights there into the industry. So, some really good, digestible information being given out.
So do you have something to present today? Are you going to do a presentation?
No, I'm actually not. A little bit more old school than that. I think people tend to get a little bit kind of drawn out when they have to watch something. And I don't feel like there's any need for a kind of investor pitch. I think given the fluidity of the information that's been given here and the kind of education of a lot of your viewers, I don't think, a pitch would really be needed. But what I'd love to do is kind of talk to you guys a little bit about just what Buoyancy's been doing, where we've come from, where we aim on going, and just kind of give you that really good kind of 10,000 to 5,000 foot overview, if that works.
Absolutely, and let's keep it interactive.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. We've got so much talent here that you guys don't need to listen to me talk for 20 minutes. Believe me, that nobody needs that. So let me give you a brief overview of myself and Buoyancy. Guys, I'm an international lawyer. I'm an international crypto lawyer. Been working in the industry now since 2015, fell in love with it. So when I heard of Buoyancy, Gresham International, which is my law firm, was very small at the time. We met with Buoyancy in Dubai, and what great guys. The energy was fantastic. The vision was great. As all of you will know on this conference, look, we met with clients back at that time. It was 2016, early 2017. I mean, you could have thrown up a white paper and just gone out and got probably $2 million relatively easily, right? The stability in the market was terrible. And as a lawyer, I have to say, the conversations I was having was I had to bite my tongue 2 or 3 times with various groups of people. But met with the Buoyancy team, and Mo, who is the CEO, and Moyad, who is the vice president, had this vision of, look, we see where this industry is. We love the exchange world. And if we think back to what the bigger players were doing then, there was really little to no model for this. And they wanted to become a fully licensed, fully insured exchange. And that was a bold vision back then. It really was, because nobody had kind of done it. And the mechanisms to do it were astronomical. So we kind of set on this vision to establish this exchange that enabled people to trade safely, economically. And while these are now terms, low latency, DeFi, decentralized trading is now a really regular term. It's like everybody knows what that means. When we spoke about this years ago, it was relatively new. I'd be lying if I said we were the first to do it. I know Lat Token, you guys obviously have your exchange, and you were looking at things about that time as well. And so, interestingly, very quick side note, Lat Token was also a client of ours. We were proud to work with you guys too. But keeping in the Buoyancy lane here, it was really important to them that they created something. But what was even cooler about it was that they wanted to target the Middle East market. And all of you guys here are in the finance world. I know a lot of you are Asia experts as well, but I get you will have touched on that Middle East market, and having a proposition there that enabled good stability, good reputation, and something that lined up with the ethos of a lot of the Middle East. I think a lot of us forget that there are some religious protocols that also have to be observed. Gave way to a really fantastic project. And over the last month, Buoyancy have rolled out their beta model, a completely scratch-built exchange that's been coded from scratch. Some really cool things. And we even secured insurance through a protocol of Lloyd's of London, which meant that coins that were stored within the lock-in system, which is a patented NEBEC system, were and are insured by Lloyd's of London. So some very cool things. And that's very much it at a 10,000-foot view, guys.
Wow, excellent. I love that insurance bit, besides everything else, Carl. So yeah, now let's take some questions. Then we go from there. Any questions from the speakers for Carl? Gavin?
Sorry, I'm trying to unmute myself. Hi, Carl.
Hey,
so forgive me. I don't know in depth your exchange element, but in the general DeFi space, one of the concerns that we've had as an organization is the varying amount of KYC and block analysis that takes place on transactions, because as a licensed entity we have to be very careful. Source of the coins, we have to make sure they're not tainted, and also we have to know who we're transacting with. Where do you fit in that spectrum? Because I know it's a broad spectrum. Some have integrated distributed KYC, some have none at all, and some have full KYC before you can participate. Where do you feel in that? Where do you fit in that spectrum?
Yeah, that's a great question, Gavin, because you're right. We see completely different ends of the spectrum. We've got BitMEX over here, which is kind of the Wild West a little bit, where I know they've recently released some KYC news, but you can kind of do whatever you want. Right down here to the likes of a Coinbase, where before you even get in their system, you have to do a very enhanced KYC. And if we were to take that as our scale, Buoyancy leans very close to, I don't call it the Coinbase model, but I give that as a great example, because as you've said, in order to maintain that reputability, carry the insurance, and get and maintain the licenses, you have to be transacting in a world where you know who your user base is, where those tokens are going. We know, I mean, for those of us that have been in the crypto industry for some time, we think of the days of Silk Road. We think of that negative reputation that came with crypto. And that's a legacy we are still trying to overcome. So things like the UK crypto license, the Estonia exchange license, various other international licenses, including some new sandboxing stuff in Bahrain and Dubai. These are 3 licenses that Buoyancy have got. Interest of full disclosure, I was never a massive fan of the Estonia license. I think it did a fraction of what the industry needed. I think we're now starting to see some very cool stuff from the UK. The accent, Gavin, I'm sure you'd agree to this, is not biased there. That is just, it's genuinely some really cool stuff they've done. Yeah. And we're seeing more of that. We are. And so I think that, yeah, it's a great question, Gavin. Where are we sitting? I feel like we're sitting where everybody in this industry should be sitting, the licensed entity, KYCing, and making sure that money laundering isn't happening.
Cool.
Great. So did that answer your question, Gavin?
It did, completely. Thanks a lot, Carl.
Great, thank you, Carl. Karina.
Yes, thank you. I was just wondering, Carl, if you could share a little bit about your typical target client or your user, your client base. Because again, just looking in part of what your mission, where you say it's really about democratizing access to blockchain and having and driving blockchain adoption. So again, the last time I talked to Mick from Depot Labs from, CryptoKitties. That obviously was also one of their objectives, democratizing access to blockchain with a very different, solution, which is breeding cats on the blockchain. But I was just wondering if you can share a little bit more in terms of, who your user base actually is.
Yeah, absolutely. Karina, I think we're not so much democratizing the blockchain. I think there are companies out there that do a fantastic job of that. And I know everybody on this call would have had the conversations with companies that go, we're doing everything in blockchain. And that's really not the lane we're in. We've picked a lane. We're a decentralized exchange. It's utility token, crypto-based assets. And ultimately, you have raised a really good point. Who is the demographic? Who are Buoyancy targeting? We try and target participants that have limited to entry knowledge within the crypto space. We don't go for the 101 guys. We like you to have some kind of industry knowledge. We do recommend 2 or 3 training companies to get some good information, some good input. This goes back to Gavin's point, somebody that's credible, you have a passport, you have an abode. But actually, if we were to take a demographic geographically, the Middle East, that region is a particular hot point for Buoyancy. The team is based there. They have offices in Kuwait, Bahrain, Dubai. They've applied to and are currently in the process of the Abu Dhabi sandbox license. That list can go on. And honestly, over the last 2 years, I've spoken with just about every regulator in the Middle East that has some kind of crypto-based protocol, sandboxing model, licensing network. And it's been an awesome journey. And I think that because they've facilitated so much in the Middle East, it speaks to a lot of their cultural aspect. I know, again, there are great exchanges in Asia that target the Asian market fantastically. But this particular project in Buoyancy for now is very much embedded in the Middle East, speaks to a lot of the Islamic rules. I'm sure all you are familiar, there are Islamic, fundamental rules around no gambling and no interest accounts. Buoyancy builds a lot of that into their network as well. I know there are obviously some Asian countries that would speak to, but for this particular moment in time, it's kind of predominantly focused in the Middle East with that kind of credible clientele region.
Excellent. Good to know, Carl. Karen, any question?
No, thank you. Thank you.
Great. I think he's done a great job in answering your question. Thanks, Carl. Next, Sahil, because you obviously touched Dubai and crypto, so please ask your question. Ask away.
Yeah, that's right. But I presume that he would actually end up answering it before I ask it. So I'll wait for him to speak for another 5 minutes. Otherwise, it will be a mere repetition.
Okay. So, Carl, do you like to talk more about Buoyancy, or shall we go and take the question from Shamir? We can come back to Sahil later. He has a question.
Grab a question from the other guys, and we'll see if the one gets answered.
Yeah, Shamir is based in Dubai. ask away.
Hey, Cal, looks like a very interesting project. Cal, I just wanted to understand, so from a Buoyancy exchange point of view, like how are you addressing the liquidity concerns? And that's my first question. The other one was, what's the custodian that you're using within your platform?
Yeah, that's 2 very, very good questions, actually. Liquidity, major issue for any exchange. So Buoyancy works in a 2-fold model. The first is to take strategic partnerships with larger exchanges. It's a necessary evil, as I refer to it, when you first enter the marketplace. Bigger exchanges do have higher liquidity. You can leverage that. So we treat it as strategic outsourcing when it's required. Those orders have to be filled. If they can be filled from a third party, that is managed. It's done so directly through APIs. We only work with strategic organizations that enable back-ending. So it's not like we're taking your order, we're just going and placing it with another exchange to meet liquidity demand. It's a little bit more advanced than that. Secondly, there is obviously the kind of protocol around signing up new clients. We do like to make sure that we have enough leverage tokens in the war chest to meet that kind of preliminary demand. The other prong to that is obviously market making, not in the sense of leveraging the tokens themselves in order to manipulate price, but create that liquidity within the market itself. That's important for a number of reasons. We all know that, guys. Liquidity of tokens is fundamental to projects. It gives strength, it gives stability, but it also enables transaction fees of some tokens to remain low. So it's really important that, you know, a lot of tokens do see some action. We refer to it as the tennis match. There are times when transactions, you know, you're desperately trying to facilitate and match those pairs. On the larger exchange, that is always easier. So with Buoyancy, they start with those 3 particular steps to try and facilitate the exchanges as quick as possible. In terms of the custodian element, that's, again, an awesome question. They've started speaking with a large US firm who are regulated through Delaware and through Idaho. I'm not going to mention any names, but if you're familiar with those 2 regions, you'll notice it. They're also speaking with some other large custodian organizations. The reason being, the United States had a recent change in the law where banks and financial institutions can now act directly as crypto custodians. Benefit of me being in California is I'm having a conversation with some very local, very specific crypto-based banks. Again, we're trying to think outside the box. I know everybody says that, and it's a real used term. You know, if we all had $1 for every time somebody said, I think outside the box. But the kind of game plan here is to use the latest things as they come along. Great example. Buoyancy were one of the first companies to get into the Bahrain sandbox project. I was over there, the team was over there. We were likewise the same to do it in Kuwait. The same is true over here in the US. Exchange of crypto assets is international. If there is better technology, better licenses somewhere, we leverage it. So we're now speaking with these financial institutions over here to get a better custodian model. However, in the interim, Buoyancy has been and was previously working with an organization called Nebex. Nebex are based in Dubai. They have a gold storage facility, which also enables you to, I treat it as like a very advanced hard wallet. You can take your holdings, place it in a hard wallet. That hard wallet is digitized and actually stored in the vault with the gold. It's one of the most secure vaults in the world. And it means that your custodian element is a little bit more advanced. So if you wanted to store it for a longer period of time, it's a more advanced custodian piece, which enables that to be kind of not taken off chain, but more put into a very, very advanced hard wallet stored in the vault itself with all of the security measures for the gold that is in the vault. And then whenever you want to withdraw that, the latency of it is, as you can imagine, slightly lengthy. So it's a one draw process kind of every hour, but you do get the advantage of insurance and some various other cool things that come with that. So again, kind of thinking outside the box in a genuine sense, trying to use what's available and strategic partnerships like that and elsewhere in the world to protect clients' assets and to also, you know, kind of meet with that trading demand for liquidity.
Thank you, Cal.
Great, thank you. I hope, Shamir, he's answered your questions.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Great, thank you, Cole. Sahil, you still have no questions or you have questions?
Yeah, I have. So, Cal, just one thing. I understand that your entity is based out of Dubai, correct? The principal or the holding or token issuance entity.
No, so the token issuing entity is actually based out of the British Virgin Islands. We have a front end organization that's based out of the United Kingdom, which is now facilitating the transactions through the crypto license, which is out in the UK. And there's also a sandbox quasi license, because as we know, Dubai hasn't quite made up his mind on crypto, based out in Dubai.
I mean, why I asked was because, for instance, if you are going to issue, let's say, tokens to a large investor based out of the UAE, having a UAE-based token issuance entity would have probably benefited you. For instance, ADGM had come up with the proper licensing regime for the exchanges as well as token issuance. And I believe SCA had also come up with the regulations exempting exchanges from e-payment regulations. Correct?
Yeah, there are some great laws spread around the Middle East. The Abu Dhabi sandbox was fantastic, and I know that Buoyancy really leveraged their Middle East presence. They've now got offices in Kuwait, Bahrain, and Dubai. They also have a satellite office in Abu Dhabi. And you're right, there's some fantastic laws out there. I know their presence was huge in really attracting the kind of market space and during their token sale to kind of really spearhead that. So yeah, you're absolutely right in that.
Yeah, but the only point which you will have to take into consideration is if you are using a BVI entity to issue tokens to someone who is residing in the UAE, then you may have to comply with their private placement regulations. But at the same time, if you are using an ADGM or a DIFC entity, then in that case, you may end up attracting VAT on the transactions, because I think last year they had clarified that cryptocurrencies fall into the regime of goods. So they consider it to be a sale and purchase of goods, especially when it comes to utility tokens, not the security tokens. So that would be something which I believe you will have to slightly consider when you deal with investors based out of the UAE, because they will be coming up with tax related queries, especially when VAT was brought.
Yeah, absolutely. And the good thing is the framework that's been deployed with myself as a lawyer and also the other 8 lawyers that we've worked with as well, including local counsel out in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. We spoke heavily with a lot of the regulators, and I actually ended up consulting with the government of Dubai on a lot of their kind of matrix a couple of years ago. So yeah, the element to look after Middle East clients and cater to them is very much there. It is a reason why there's regional offices. Clients do subscribe to their regional office, especially if there's tax implications. Saudis as well, people from Saudi Arabia will also find certain kind of issues over there. There's a whole network being put in place to enable them to do some very cool things as well. So yeah, there's a great patchwork out there, and it's something that, as you're right, Buoyancy has taken into consideration and kind of deployed as much as they can. I think anybody can at the minute.
Great. Pleased to hear.
Fantastic. So I think Carl has managed to answer all the questions. Does anybody have any other questions for Carl? No? Okay, cool. So
just a quick general question actually about the market. How are you finding the take up in the crypto market in the Middle East area? Is it quite strong? How are you pleased with the take up? Yeah,
actually, I've seen a real good overview over the last, I would say, 3 or 4 years, Gavin, on the Middle East. It's not an area I've specialized in, but it is something I've witnessed through Buoyancy and other projects. The Middle East market, if I was to talk to you 12 months ago, I would be giving you a completely different answer. I think in the last 12 months, we've seen a massive uptake. Massive is a relative term, by the way. I'm not saying the whole region's on fire and now you should dive head first in, but compared to where it was 12 months ago, the life is really being injected into it. I think you guys as the professionals, as what you do, you've always seen a real interest in the Middle East in that primary market. Look, the Middle East loves cash injections into exciting new projects. That's huge. So does Asia. Some really exciting, if you take a great project to the Middle East and you are looking to raise capital or cash, you struggle to do badly, is my layman's opinion on the situation. But if we are talking about the secondary market, tokenization, and how is the crypto industry doing, I would say it is still growing. I would say you are probably at about a 20 to 25% of the powerhouse it will be. And I think that projects like Buoyancy and Buoyancy specifically in this instance are getting ahead of what we'll see as a curve in the region.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Okay, cool. That's just on time that we've just ended with the questions. Any questions? No? If not, I'd just like to know some closing remarks from our speakers of the day. Karen, I'd like to ask what was the experience and how would you close the session? What are your closing remarks for the session?
Yes, thank you very much, Sonny. So as you mentioned up front, so that was my very first appearance here on VCTV, and I truly enjoyed it. Amazing. Thank you to my co-panelists, Shamir and Gavin and Sahil and Carl. Very, very great presentation. Thank you for giving also a little bit of the history and the background. So yeah, I mean, my closing remarks, which with regards again to what is happening right now, I think we mentioned it's one of these areas where there are a lot of shifts in market forces and in the environment that obviously on the one hand side can be very challenging, but I think my entrepreneurial self comes through and finds it very exciting to see the opportunities it really opens up. And I think one of the elements I've always liked to state, I mean, we had our own virtual conference just a month ago, and you know, having had that physically at the convention center would not have allowed us to have 97 countries participate, which was actually the case of the virtual conference. So again, I'm not sure if I would be sitting here and talking to Cal and Shamir and Sahil and Gavin. And I'm really thankful. I hope to stay in touch. I noted down some similar interests in health tech, education technology, as well as gaming. You know, technology throughout technologies, technology agnostic, but would be very happy to stay in touch. And also, thank you very much once again to everyone. Please reach out if you're interested to hear more about Hong Kong and what we do here at Angel Hub and W Hub.
Great. I'm going to share Karen's number and email. Karen, if that's okay with you. So yeah.
Totally fine. Absolutely. That's what we do.
Great. Thank you. Gavin, what's your closing remarks for tonight?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what Karina said. It's been a great experience. Really well put together and really interesting panelists. I mean, that's something that's always struck me about the crypto space. You get to meet some really interesting and diverse people. So no, thank you so much for the invite. I really enjoyed it. And similar to Karina, if anyone wants to reach out and discuss anything, please contact us at Panzora. We're happy to follow up on that. Okay.
Excellent. I'm
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Gavin. I'm going to share your details. Sahil, what are your closing remarks?
Well, firstly, it was very well put, and thanks a lot to Cal as well, because Cal didn't go with the presentation and he went with the flow, which was amazing. He answered all the questions brilliantly, and I'm sure that, you know, success of Buoyancy will inspire other startups, especially in cryptocurrency and blockchain arena, to consider Dubai or the UAE as their base. That said, I will also echo the opinions of Karen and Gavin that you know, these kind of sessions are really interesting and we meet interesting people. I loved sharing the stage with Shamir, Gavin and Karina, and I shall be looking forward to interacting with them as well as you and Cal.
Excellent. I love this. Thank you. Thank you, Sahil. Shamir.
Well, thanks for having me again on the show. And as usual, it's always good to meet with like-minded people and amazing personalities in this industry. Like Cal and others mentioned, this domain actually brings together some very enterprising minds. So it's very good to always learn. And Cal, thank you for the wonderful presentation on Buoyancy. It's good to see projects out of this region, Dubai specifically. That's where I am. So it's really good to see some homegrown businesses. But likewise, I share the same thoughts as my fellow panelists. It's lovely to be here with you all, Gavin, Karina, Sahil, and Cal. Looking forward to be in touch, and let's stay in touch and be connected. Thank you so much, Sonny, for having me.
Absolutely, Shamir. Any day. Thank you so much. Last but not least, our special guest, Carl, who is obviously known to a lot again, but it's the first time on a VCTV. Well, what are your closing remarks for tonight, Carl?
Yeah, absolutely. Long-time listener, first-time caller, Sonny. Look, Thank you guys so much. Great to be. I can't take any credit for the panel. Obviously, you guys delivered an exceptional job. Thank you for being so informative and interesting. This industry, we do all meet some amazing people. You are examples of that. I'm not just saying that. I have listened to some panels in the past and struggled to kind of really either understand what they're doing or be engaged. You were all engaging. You all delivered some really awesome points. And likewise, if you guys love to stay in touch, and Sonny, thank you so much for organizing this and let me being a part of it.
Okay, excellent. I can share all the details after the call if for all the emails and numbers, so everybody stays connected. Fantastic. Now we've come to the end of the session. Thank you very much for your time this evening and taking the space and sharing your experience and ideas and roadmaps. So we host this shows on VCTV, which is the Venture Capital TV, Monday to Friday. You can watch us at www.latoken.com/events. And please do reach out to me, whichever way, if you are interested to speak at a panel that is of area of interest. And lastly, I would like to say thank you, stay safe, stay healthy, and please, let's stay connected. Thank you so much, and have a good evening. Thank you. Bye. Bye, guys.